Ngizizwa ngiphatheka kabi kakhulu. Uma kuthi imkhombi yaphela njengolapha nje kuphinda kuye kufike nabanye abavakashi bazobuka bese kuyima siphinde sithole imali. Manje isikhathi sokuthiwa siphelile ngizizwa ngiphatheka kakhulu.
You know, having seen a lot of poached animals before, I don't think anything really prepares you for when you see an animal that you've known. I've only been here for a short time, but some of the animals that were poached were under 4 years old. So you know them for their entire lifetime and the entire time you've been. So it's incredibly difficult, especially when it's animals that you regularly see all the time. I think what hit me the hardest is to try and imagine the brutality and the pain and the suffering that they had to go through. So yeah.
I think it's a tragedy to allow rangers to experience the death of a rhino, you know, as part of the family. The majority of rangers don't deal with that trauma very well at all. Loss of a family is a tough thing to experience.
Hey, I feel bad. I feel bad simply because you see, when you see the animals dead, it's not nice. It looks like you're not doing your job. Like as the rangers, it looks like we're not doing our job properly when you see the animal dead.
Dit is frustrerend, dit is hartseer, dit is kwaad. Dit voel soos 'n verlore stryd.
As the pace increases, so does the effect on these guys, and it's not just the guys directly on the coalface, it's also their wives and their families, etc. You know, there's an emotional effect that is expressed when you get home, and you know, home is where you should sort of leave your work behind you, but it's impossible to do so.
Looking after ranger wellness is really critical in saving the rhino, because we're in a campaign. This is an ongoing calling that we have, and without good mental health and ranger wellness, we're certainly not going to have the manpower to do the job. And so the personal well-being is so important, because who protects a rhino if we don't?
StopRhinoPoaching.com was established in 2010 as a response to the escalating rhino poaching crisis in South Africa. We've got a national footprint for strategic fund placement supporting rhinos and rangers in rhino reserves across South Africa. And soon after we started, it became very evident that in order to look after rhinos, we actually need to look after the people who are safeguarding them in the first place. It's quite something to spend time with a hardened ranger who's experienced life in the bush and see his eyes well up with tears when he talks about a particular poaching incident. The emotional drain and fatigue of all of this is just unbelievable, and whether you're talking to rangers and seeing what they're experiencing, whether you're speaking to investigators, whether you're speaking to the guys that handle crime scenes, you realize that the toll is just not sustainable. It's absolutely critical that we just keep on supporting them in their efforts to save the rhino, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the guys that need to do it. We've supplied the type of kit that you need to either save your own life and the training that goes with that, or that of your buddy or your fellow rangers that are walking with you.
When they started as rangers, they weren't looking at fighting a war. They're now fighting a war against the poachers, so we've had to prepare them in a gunshot environment, so an environment closer to a war situation, rather than doing first aid like we would do it at home or in a controlled office environment. So that's why the focus is on big injuries and war-like injuries. We've kept the course very practical because it's all about doing things. We don't learn very well by just reading. Medicine is about getting people better. We don't read them better, we make them better. The situations that we're asking them to get involved in, the exercises, involve doing something to stop bleeding. So we've kept it practical for that reason. The way to embed something in a memory is to keep doing it, putting it into practice. It's also very easy to do something in theory, and if you don't get them to practice that particular thing, it will only ever just stay a theory. So it's been very important for us to make it as practical and as real life as possible, so that in real life they'll know exactly what to do.
Literally the day after one course, we had a field ranger shot through the forearm, applied the cat tourniquet, and his life was saved. In the event that that training had not taken place, we would have certainly lost that life.
The support we get from people out there is good. People have a lot of sympathy. If you speak to people one-on-one, even our critics, they come to you and say, we're proud of what you're doing.
Without the public out there and showing compassion and empathy for what we're doing, we will lose this battle. It's important that we get people to help us fund this war as well. It's a huge strain on governments in Africa to try and fund these type of exercises. We need the public out there to be vocal, to put pressure on the necessary places and make sure they support us, and we know we've got their backing.
Keeping rhinos safe these days is a very, very expensive operation. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights.
Unfortunately, you cannot start working at 7 and go home at 8. Myself, as the mission area manager in Kruger, spent 2 days in my house in 2015. There was just no time to do anything other than detecting, chasing, trying to fix them and trying to get a conclusive arrest every time. You cannot afford to chase the same poaching group every weekend. You will go insane. The people has resilience that are in there, and they have seen a lot of blood. They have had serious human conflict, like all the other things in the last 5 years. We developed professional outcomes. Stop Rhino Poaching has, for me in operations, filled a gap that nobody else filled for me.
Stop Rhino Poaching support is tangible, it's genuine, it's in time, it's needs driven. It shows people that you care. It is also sustained, it's not an in and out, a tick in the box. The involvement, the personal involvement, the attention to detail to make sure you get exactly what the need requires, and then the way that it is donated and the way that the support is given after the donation, be it with training or follow-up or maintenance, is commendable. It plays a huge role in the morale of the Ranger Corps.
Giving a ranger something like a backpack might not seem to be a big thing in our world, but for them it's a tool to do the job, but it's also a symbol of motivation and huge inspiration that there are people out there that really care about his well-being and that care about him and the job that he's doing. It's the same thing when you give somebody a raincoat or a bivvy or a uniform. It gives them a sense of pride in being a ranger, and it gives them a sense of pride in what they're achieving in the bush, and it just gives them that extra motivation to keep on trying and keep on working as hard as they can. We've also been able to support investigators and security stakeholders, be that with things like laptops, analyst programs, various equipment to help them do their investigations. It can be something as simple as a camera, all the little bits and pieces that might be out of their scope that they really need in order to do those investigations. Those are the sort of areas that we're able to come in and fill those gaps.
She's a English Springer Spaniel. Elise contacted me and she's got a donor that wanted to sponsor a dog. And it's a Springer Spaniel if I wanted to raise and train her for her. And I said, yeah, definitely. And she came to me, Elise brought it to me on 12 weeks old. Yeah, and ever since we're together.
Our Rhino Dogs project has deployed 32 dogs. We're about to deploy another 2 dogs now. And these are dogs that have either been trained in human tracking, human apprehension, or detection of endangered species and ammunitions. It's incredible to see just how much of a force multiplier a dog is when it's placed on a reserve, where that reserve is able to take full responsibility of the dog and their canine capability and all the things that go into that. And it's also been incredibly rewarding to watch handlers when they first meet their dog and they're not too sure of their dog, slowly but surely grow an absolute bond with their dog, where at the end of the training they're inseparable and they're so looking forward to going back to the reserves and really making a difference on the ground. One thing that became really evident when we first got involved is that for all that there are a lot of rhino meetings, sometimes the stuff that was being discussed at those meetings wasn't the kind of stuff that the guys really wanted to talk about and really wanted to hear. So a number of years back we started a small little group of like-minded people getting together and asking them for input. What do they want to talk about?
We've been doing this for 5 years now, together with Stop Rhino Poaching. It's the only place where you get real detail, where you dig into solutions. And if we get together like this and we network and we talk, we can retain the initiative. One would like to think we have the initiative, looks like it. The losses are getting lower in the places that took the most pressure. This conference has contributed to us being more skillful and really becoming professionals. The guys at this workshop are the brain surgeons of Stop Rhino Poaching.
The SRP meetings has been a lifesaver actually in terms of how we operate. It's a place where we can share ideas, a place where we can network with each other. You know the person on the other side of the telephone if you need to call him anywhere in the country. And it's just a way of a meeting of the mind, so to speak. And Stop Rhino Poaching has given us that opportunity and a venue to do that very regularly.
The most encouraging thing for me, having come to this conference, is to see that genuine effort amongst all the participants to sort of come up with better ideas, to come up being smarter and doing it in a unified sense. And I think Stop Rhino Poaching is unique in that, first of all, it's gained the trust of all these people. And secondly, it's brought us all together. And that's the only way that we're going to win this in the end, if we ever win it completely, is by trusting each other and sharing information.
I think it's more than just a rhino thing. We're going to lose a lot of animals if we don't have people that are this dedicated. So as a member of the public, I'd say, remember them, keep them in your thoughts, and when you see them, just stop and say thank you for the awesome job that they're doing.
To keep rangers motivated is very, very important, and that's where Elise and Stop Rhino Poaching helps us a lot.
These little things where Stop Rhino Poaching did walk the extra mile to support us.
On behalf of all the rhino reserves and rangers we've been able to support, and all of those that we'll be supporting in future, I'd really like to say such a very big thank you to our donors. The difference that you've made out there might not seem immediately evident if you look at the stats. But the fact is that if it weren't for your support, we would have lost hundreds, if not thousands more rhinos. The fact that you're all out there acts as massive motivation for all the people that have to wake up every single morning and face another day of safeguarding rhinos in this country. So thank you so much.